Story time. I don't think I can watch this clip. This is not going to be fun to make. Ah, boy. Good morning, Britain. Now, I realise, of course, you could be watching this in the afternoon, or the evening, or indeed not in Britain. But I am in fact referring to ITV's morning television show that replaced GMTV, if not in our hearts, at the very least in our television schedules.
Good morning, a new day, a new year, a new television station. Welcome to GMTV.
For those of you that don't know, Good Morning Britain, or GMB for short, is the British crack at Good Morning America, a popular morning television programme where they talk about the issues of the day, current affairs, that sort of stuff. Britain's version seems to be more like a tabloid newspaper come to life, not least because they insist on frequently employing the living ham-hock of faux outrage and thinly veiled bigotry that is Piers Morgan.
Well, good morning, Britain.
I was once on this programme and it was awful. Well, not awful, but it was bad. Not bad, it just wasn't good. But it was morning, however. My God, it was morning, and it was Britain. To quote a friend and professional broadcaster from, shall I say, a bigger, better channel, I've never seen a guest so wasted. By this, he didn't mean that I was clearly monumentally drunk. They have makeup to cover that sort of thing. He meant that they didn't use me and my unusual skills in the best or indeed any way whatsoever. Which was in fact the plan until about an hour before I went on, roughly 5 AM. Have I mentioned it was morning? It was about this time, after speaking to the producer, that I read between the lines, as you'd expect me to, and realised that they didn't want the monkey to dance, as I believe I phrased it at the time, to my organ grinder. Manager. Nor did they want me to mention any live theatre tours I was involved with at the time, which I was labouring under the belief was at least part of the reason for me being there, at a time in the morning that I only usually see because I'm still awake from the day before. Have I mentioned it was early? Anyway, the segment of inane morning chit-chat that I was to feature in was one of those statistics you hear on shows like this. On average, people have to remember 19 passwords. At least, I think it was 19. If only someone had repeatedly said it.
I mean, on average, we need 19 different passwords. Yeah. 19 times.
It sounds like it
19, don't forget. But it's got to be different 19 times.
19 different passwords.
And as the world had suddenly been thrown into complete chaos due to this being revealed, it hadn't. They wanted to suggest ways people could remember such an inordinate amount of information. So they needed an expert. A memory expert. Now, I assume that someone, probably a researcher or producer, searched through recent emails containing blurb from PR companies for the keywords memory and expert, and the one that came up had me in. Truth be told, I didn't know I was an expert on such things. I know a lot about using memory tricks and mnemonic strategies, and I use such strategies in my show, either overtly or covertly, and could simultaneously bore and fascinate you with tales of how different types of memory are formed in the brain. But an expert? I'm not so sure. I've always been wary of anyone claiming to be an expert. What I know about memory could fill a book, but what I don't could probably fill a library. In fact, I only found out I was a memory expert at the precise moment the presenter read it from the auto cue.
Well, we're joined now by the sort of guy we all need in this situation. That's Alex McAleer, a memory expert.
Regardless of that, I at least thought that this was a good idea. I sincerely believe that everyone should use some kind of mnemonic technique to enhance their life, and the presenters, on the other hand, felt very differently. After sitting on the couch during the VT being shown to the viewers, the presenters introduced themselves to me. The lady one complimented me on my moustache that I had at the time, and asked what I was there to talk about. I explained about the password statistic, and that I was a mind reader, and that I had been invited to talk about how to use these simple techniques to remember so very, very many passwords. The lady presenter, who had been smiling and nodding at everything I'd said so far, instantly replied, "Oh, that's silly. No one's going to do that." Oh. I was so perplexed by what was happening, from the fact that a few hours before I thought I was going on TV to promote a tour and demo my skills, one of which related to a soft news story of the day. If I remember correctly, and I usually do, they wanted me to reveal a presenter's password and talk about memory. Sounds fun, right? Then as I was sat there, on TV, in front of people, it just sort of became a chat about memory techniques, then actually being me having to defend the idea that people can remember stuff to a presenter who had adopted a highly sceptical point of view on something that wasn't even my idea in the first place.
An ordinary person,
Yes, it's just...
a bear of little brain, 19 times remembering a route through somewhere in order to access a different website.
Yes.
The ensuing conversation, broadcast live on national television, is something I ironically struggle to forget. All of this moderately therapeutic rambling, I'm a star, bright shining star, brings me to my point. These things being tricky to do is not the problem. It is the belief that you or anyone else can't do such things that is the problem.
An ordinary person,
Yes, it's just...
a bear of little brain.
I am not special. I am special. You see, your brain likes to think in images. It's the language of the brain. If you create images in your head in a structured way, then you, my budding psychonaut, are talking the brain's language. A case in point. When my son was about 6 years old, I taught him a very simple mnemonic peg system. Google it. I've done enough talking already. And we made it a game. First, I taught him the pegs for the numbers 1 to 10. These are nouns that you can visualize and rhyme with the associated number. 1 is a gun, 2 is a shoe, 3 is a tree, 4 is a door, 5 is a beehive, 6 is magic tricks, 7 is heaven, 8 is a gate, 9 is time, and 10 is a hen. After about 2 minutes, my 6-year-old son easily associated the images of each noun with its respective number. Then, whilst lying on his bed, we made a list of 10 items and associated each item with each peg. In his mind, he created a little scene, an image, a 6-second visual story that involved the peg and the item. After creating the list, he struggled to recall a couple of items in the first attempt, but we went over the list again and the associations and the little pictures and images and stories he'd made in his mind, and he got it spot on with no help from me. Then he remembered the list perfectly again the next day. Then, a week later, and again a month later. He was 6 at the time. He didn't know it was something you're supposed to think you can't do. To him, it was just a fun way to remember things that he and his daddy had come up with. At school, he's currently getting his head around what we would call basic maths, the kind of stuff that we can just do in our head and take for granted. So I'm confident that you can apply the... Oh, never mind. That's stupid. No one's going to do that. TV said so.